Well, that went well. Oh shit, I had it open here. Idiot. That explains it. Oh, we try. We try. Where were we? Here's where we are. What we at? Need to work on that. Are we good now? Good morning. Hi everyone. Messed that up big time. My bad. I'm gonna give you the link instead to the music that I was trying to play to you. It's pretty good when it doesn't echo. Check it out. Link in the chat. It's a bunch of Orthodox monks singing a very beautiful American Christmas song, carol thing. Anywho, let's do the reading. Let's hope this doesn't echo. We witness in the 18th century the preparation of the French Revolution by individualism and the degeneration of the old liberal trends into economical liberalism of the deterministic Manchesterian pattern. Egalitarianism only appears in strongly collectivistic societies where strong exogenous powers try to shape persons into individuals, deprived of their original character. The individual is merely the last indivisible unit of the mass, and individualism the last grotesque and hopeless fight of depersonalized man within the ocean of collectivism to withstand the encroachments of the masses. Charles V had a personality, but Gustave de Nerval, who promenaded a tamed lobster in the streets of Paris, was a mere individualist. Collectivism implies egalitarianism. An ideal mass is homogeneous and consists therefore of equal atoms. Egalitarianism as well as collectivism are thus incompatible with liberty. Force must not only be used for the leveling process in the initial stage, it becomes necessarily a permanent factor in order to maintain the unorganic symmetrical order. This brutal force is necessary for any and every egalitarian effort. It is even more necessary in the case of a frantic identitarianism. The desire for more equality and identity becomes finally a mania, and the use of more force a sadistic delight. Gyneocracy and pedocracy, so familiar to autocratic cultures, become a part of the great program, and even the animals rise to the level of human equality. From there, it is only a short step to a terroristic pantheism bordering on madness. Pretty hardcore stuff. This is The Menace of the Herd, or Procrustes at Large, by Eric Ritter von Kuehne-Ledin. It has probably been about 10 years since I encountered this book the first time, and I was sitting here like in the minutes before messing up the stream start, trying to find a good quote, because I had kind of decided already that I was going to read from this book, but I hadn't found a good quote. And the Ritter is kind of verbose at times, but there are some real gems of insight in a lot of his writing, and especially I think he himself, Eric Ritter von Kuehne-Ledin, was born in 1909 in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, right on the tail end of the before the old order disappeared in Europe with the First World War. And one of the stories that I know he's written down somewhere, and which always kind of recurs to me when thinking about him, is he recounts a tale of when during the First World War, when he was a young child, he's walking through Vienna with his governess, who is French, and they're carrying on a conversation in French. Despite the fact, then, of course, that the Austro-Hungarian Empire is at war with France. And he makes the point that the inverse of this, i.e. walking through Paris speaking German, would, of course, have been entirely impossible. So it's a pretty good book. I can definitely recommend it. It's very, if you way further. I need to back up so you can see the glory of the beard. If you're only just getting started with monarchism, I can definitely recommend it as a good primer. Just delete the clappers. So, a bunch of questions dripping in already. But yeah, Menace of the Herd. Crusties at Large. You can find this online in its entirety, and he's interesting. He's the proverbial Catholic gentleman. So like everything, basically his two political positions are, you know, human liberty and Catholicism, and you know, who can't love that, right? You can definitely recommend that book. So hi, how y'all doing? Hope y'all are good. The stream kind of crept up on me again this month. The weeks kind of whizzed past, and I was again suddenly when Shubla reminded me in the thread for the last stream that maybe I should be streaming again in March as I promised. So here we are doing the stream. Crept up on me, and so this was a suddenly organized thing, and blah blah blah. I should probably become better prepared and think a little bit more ahead, but that leaves room for improvement for the next stream. So what we're gonna do today is look at these guys. Mopsy Pacey says, hello Jorb. Hello Mopsy Pacey, I remember you from last stream. Look at all these guys just smooching away at me. Means they love me. Aller Anfang ist schwer. Genau, es ist wirklich so. What we're gonna do, of course, is keep rolling with the character that we started last time. So I'm just gonna do that while I answer questions, of course, and all that, the usual good stuff that we do here on the live streams. It's going to be a very unpretentious stream. We're just going to play. I have a couple of goals that I'd like to accomplish. We're going to fish some more. We did that last time, but also I want to, we're going to try to build an oven and hopefully make some bread. Not sure we'll be able to pull all of that off, but before we do anything else, we're of course going to eat ourselves, get our energy a bit. So since last time, I've been trying to keep curios rolling, but you know, there are a lot of things to focus on in life. Ooh, there's a bear. There's a bear right there. Let's hope he doesn't do us. Same rules as last time. I may cheat a little bit if I feel if I feel that gives me a meaningful advantage that allows me to advance and produce a more interesting stream. Other than that, we're going to try, of course, to play as legit as possible. And yes, I've been trying to keep a selection of curios rolling. So we have some LP here. We have 38k LP fresh, just waiting to be spent. And blah, blah, blah. I will listen that up. There we go. There we go. And yeah. H2 Spez asks, when animals will start swim? Or just a horse? It's an interesting question. I can agree that they should handle water better, all of the animals probably. I think the problem is, this has obviously been a long-standing thing, the animals still actually walk on water rather than even have their Z level, their height level adjusted to where the kind of lake floor is. So there's definitely stuff to work on there. And I think the only problem is that we haven't really found a consistent model for how to handle it in any reasonably generic and appealing, mildly appealing at least, way and or fashion. So we're going to start by making ourselves as decent a shovel as we can here, because we're going to go do some digging. Obviously, since last time, we have our hussar's wings and a traveler's sack that were kindly donated to us. Mr. Softner asks client rework. I ask Loftar this every week, and the answer I get every week is that it's progressing. So can't tell you much more than that, I'm afraid. It is a big deal, so I hope we'll get spent almost a year on it now, so I'm certainly hoping the results will be worth it in terms of improvements. Fingini asks, do mobs need line of sight to aggro like Hearthlings? Yes, they do. At least I believe that is the case. They should. So we're gonna... Wow, there's an eagle here. I saw an eagle on the mini-map. Koyotemation asks, hey Jorb, has C-Tribe expanded at all, or is it still just you and Loftar? Still just the two of us, the dynamic duo. Obviously, in case anyone is entirely just new to what we're doing here, me and the Loftar character that is being constantly referred to as we're two people building this game that we're now playing, called Haven and Hearth, which is a survival MMO set in a freeform, terraformable world. Blah 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 blah, all that usual stuff. Okay, so our masonry, so we dug up some ball clay here, but it's only quality 2 because our masonry is trash, so we're gonna have to raise our masonry up. Let's try to get it up to, ooh, that's a lot. Let's get it up to like 15 maybe. Boom. We get an extra little bonus because we have some equipment which does that. Some other questions here. Adding hot springs to regain soft HP faster, asks Protodniko. Sorry if I'm butchering your name there, sir. Hot springs through... Yeah, I've actually been thinking that there should be more than one way to restore soft HP. I've had the experience several times, especially when I've been grinding beaver dams that, I just spend unreasonable amounts of time just restoring soft HP. So what I would like to do there is, include potions and such to help me restore faster. And also I think that there's a pretty good case to be made that soft HP should just restore automatically while you're sleeping, so in your bed. I think it's kind of retarded that, because as it works right now, hard HP restores when you're sleeping. So you log in with a full hard HP meter, but you're entirely drained of soft HP, which feels kind of backwards. I think the bed should help you with that other thing as well. Right. In order to build a kiln, which is the thing I want to do, I need pottery. Cracked, the potter's clay, pouring water, scraping dry, the vessel of eternity. Some top-notch poetry right there, sir. Vlixion asks, are you accepting new people to your team? No, we're quite content being just the two of us. It's been our pet project for we're not like I wouldn't perhaps exclude that we might at some point expand the team, but I think we would like the game to at least be reasonably in a place economically and development wise that motivates all that. So, and we're getting there. Like, the economy has certainly been better this year than last year, and most certainly better than the year before. So we're looking at a good year, I hope. And yeah. Questions. Leon281281 asks, are trolls tied to tiles? I don't believe there is any explicit association between the troll and any particular form of tile, but they obviously only spawn in dungeons. Or no, sorry, not in dungeons, but in the cave levels. Entforg asks, when is it updated to allow resketching equipment? Resketching equipment, is that something I promised somewhere? think not. I'm not sure what you mean by that, resketching equipment. Do you mean like the tabards and stuff that you can create? Would you like to resketch those, or not sure what you would like to resketch? Yes. We have no plans for that, as far as I'm aware. Just craft new ones, I think, would be the immediate answer there. Other questions? Lord Pay1E. At the moment, bone is the only glue that there is. What about making slime glue or sap glue? I think those are good ideas. I would not mind, an additional source of glue. Also, of course, I don't want to devalue the existing glue entirely. I kind of like that bone is, at least a mildly relevant resource, because, you get a lot of it. So I like that. Coitimation asks, when do you think we'll see a world reset, or is the game at a point now where that might not be necessary as often? Not something I care to comment on too much, just like last time. It happens when it happens, and when it needs to happen for developmental reasons. Right now, I don't think we're, development-wise, I don't think we're near where we need to be to motivate a reset. So, no rush on my part. Let's see, other questions. El de los Indias asks, new dungeon soon. Would be fun to fight something else apart from beavers. I may not be spoiling anything too huge when I tell you that we're indeed working on a new dungeon right this instant, or right now. One of our bigger side projects right now is a new dungeon. So hopefully we'll be rolling that out before the next stream. That is to say, before like the end of April. That could be a goal, at least a boy can dream. But obviously we're kind of raising the bar relative to the previous dungeon. We want to do new things. We have a whole list of things that we've talked through and of things that we'd like to see in dungeons. And then when we develop them for one dungeon, we obviously develop them kind of in principle so that they will in the future be easier to implement for a new dungeon. Some of the stuff that we've wanted to do are some non-combat challenges in dungeons, and for that purpose we've been kind of thinking about various puzzles and such that we could auto-generate. And there are several forms of puzzles, like keys that you could acquire by fighting mobs, or perhaps situation. Just imagine all the puzzles you could encounter in a Zelda dungeon of your choice, basically. So I've been thinking about stuff like that and working on the generation of such things. Jeeb Holder asks, will we ever get pathfinding? I don't know, do you need pathfinding? There are obviously several problems with pathfinding. One being that might not be a great idea if players can kind of arbitrarily ask the server to perform complex pathfinding tasks. But not to say that you couldn't, rate limit that, or not to say that there aren't ways around that. But furthermore, do you really need pathfinding? And also, I think there are a lot of issues with pathfinding. That it's easy to say pathfinding, but there are a lot of issues that you would need to kind of concretize. Like, what does pathfinding, like, for example, does the character when pathfinding only choose the directest route, or is he looking, or is he, for example, trying to compute his actual movement speed over various terrains and things like that. So I think that pathfinding could give you a lot more suboptimal results than you may be expecting. And also with the push-out mechanic, I haven't really felt a huge need for pathfinding myself. So there's that. So we're obviously digging a bunch of clay here, and the purpose of that is to build ourselves a kiln, we're going to fill the kiln with clay, then we're going to fire the kiln, and with the to get bricks, and then we're going to use the bricks to build an oven. So dems the plans. So here we have our kiln. We're just going to load it up with clay. I think we need like 2 batches, right, to produce an oven. So the draw asks, whenever forest or tree guy credo comes around, can we get a hearth magic or a craft to grow a stunted tree? Yes, I've actually had that thought myself, and I think it's a pretty good idea. Like you know, some druidic touch or something where you could, because one of the mechanics in the game is that when you plant a tree, there's a certain random chance for the tree to stunt during its when it's growing up. And I certainly could see a market for one way or another to heal and or counteract that. Mandyland5 asks, is there any YouTubes that have shown the game off that you have enjoyed the work they did? There's that one guy, what's he called? I don't remember. There's a semi-famous YouTuber who made a video of the old Haven and Hearth a long time ago, which still sends us a ton of traffic and referrals. So that was obviously a good thing. How can I not remember his name? I don't know. So yeah, I actually watched someone streaming Haven a while ago, and it was kind of interesting watching people who were, you know, actual genuine noobs fumble about, and it kind of gave some insights into, you know, perhaps where the game can develop from a pedagogical point of view. Pro Jared, exactly, sorry, Pro Jared, how could I forget? Pro Jared, that was the guy I was thinking about. He made a video, and it was a long time ago now, but it was just like several years ago, but we still get a lot of referrals from that, so very grateful for that. Honestly, I think any and all attention we get is good, I suppose. James12 asks, is there a reason why you only stream once a month? I think it would kind of grow old otherwise, maybe, I don't know. Also, it's, you know, personal time constraints and whatnot. But, oh, wait, I don't want to use that. We want to use the best quality wood we have available, and I don't think that's that. Yeah, oh, sorry, that is actually, oh, maybe we need to raise our carpentry. Yes, maybe our carpentry is absolute trash. Sorry about that. Let's get our carpentry up. That's better, I think. Probably better as well. Let's actually make it so that it matches our wood quality, and then just toss all these branches. Alright, we have a terrible axe as well. That was a waste then. Oh well. Oops. Shift clicking things out of there is it's an interesting thing when it comes to furnaces. It's happened to me more than once that I've shift clicked important things out of furnaces. So let's see. So yeah, a reason why you only stream once a month. Should I stream more often? I don't think so, right? Like, probably streaming once a month is enough. I saw someone asking what the runestones say, and obviously they're all about the praise. There's nothing but praise here. I love the game. You even get experiences when you lift these runestones. They're great, I tell you. So I love this game. Heart. Thanks, Jorb. You're welcome, anonymous person. Then there again, there's fuck you, move out, these rules. So there's obviously differences of opinion. We can assemble these into a little sculpture garden, I think. Let's see. Yeah, you're probably right in that carpentry probably doesn't affect block chopping. Jorb equals Hitler, so that's another. Say, well, let's split these runestones up in the agree and disagree count. Have to count that as a nay vote. So we have 2 votes for nay and 1 vote for yay. Not looking too bright. Let's see what these others say. Fuck hedgehogs? I'd say that's neutral, right? That's not directed at me, right? I have to call that neutral. We have to make a category for neutral. Put that over there. Ardens TV asks, out of curiosity, would you be willing to expand the list of activities that trigger the server-side auto-drinking to include cauldron use? I think it should probably include crafting overall. I think it used to when we first launched the auto-drinking feature, but for some reason I think Lofter had to turn it off from crafting. I'm not entirely sure why, but I seem to recall that being the case. But you know, I do agree in principle that it should be entirely possible to, one of our studies finished, to use auto-drinking with, well, crafting nonsense as well. We're going to have to smash one of these corner posts in order to get a hold of that last runestone. Could these sorry, can't read that. If someone feels like translating the Russian to me, I would be very grateful. You can go get a good screenshot of that, put that into Google Translate, and tell me what it says. We'll put that in neutral for now. Stizvol asks, why rope don't works with wild horse? How does the rope not work with wild horse? You mean in terms of auto unleashing and stuff? Right. So according to Airbase owns, it says, these will expand and you can do nothing about it, son of a bitch. So hope that, if that's an accurate translation, we're going to have to count that as a nay vote. It's not looking too good for yours truly. Not looking too good. We're hoping that tonight's session can change all of that for the better. What were we doing? We were lighting this kiln. Mr. Softner asks, why do deer and fox not run away from us? They should run away. I agree as a more general point that all animals should have a significantly better logic for how they handle players, and I definitely agree that that should include running away from players more generally. I like the lynx in terms of how it behaves, in that it's actually aggressive, but it also tries to move away from players. So it has a very lynxy kind of dynamic, and I think definitely that deer and fox should try to get away from players before players can just pluck them as meat bags. So I agree with you. That could be a good thing to work on. Animal AI generally is not far from perfect. It could be a lot better. It could be a lot worse too. It's obviously a lot better now than it used to be. Let's see. I think I missed a couple of questions here. If I miss your question and you really want it answered, feel free to ask it again. As Martins asks, have you seen that new indie game kind of roguelike MMO called 1 Hour, 1 Life? Interesting concept to me. What do you think? I have not seen that. I'll Google that later. I'll try to Google that later. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's an interesting concept. Ardens TV asks, store-bought sketch pages able to redo the sales on Knars if you have the mastery key in your inventory would generate a large amount of shekels. That's actually a good idea. I think that equipment rebranding aside, I think that all the kind of terrain objects that use custom image sketches could definitely also use the ability to reset them without having to rebuild a new Knar or whatever. I think that, I mean, that's already how it works for the store stalls, I believe. So I think that would be, implementing that as a more generic feature, I think would be only reasonable. Let's get a little tree pot thing going here. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Sinmofo asks, is there anything you plan to do about ooze damage in large groups? Or is it intended to be worse than trolls? Is it really worse than trolls? I have not encountered a troll myself, but I've encountered several large groups of slimes on level 5, and they're pretty feisty, I'll give you that, but my relatively noobish real character can at least handle them. So Furry friends forever. That has to be positive, right? I missed that one. That has to be a positive vote. That's a yay vote right there. Furry friends, who can say no to that? Yeah, I guess maybe the users are a bit too hardcore. Maybe it's a bit... The cave oozes also move at like warp 10, which I'm not sure is a very ooze-like quality, so arguably that could change. Buchinellis asks / says, I don't have a question, just wanted to say thank you guys for everything you're doing. Thank you for saying that and for playing the game. It means a lot to us. Sinmofo, says in relation to this last question, yes, they are. Their damage goes from like 1-2 when in a group of 20 to hitting for over 100 in the third round. Yeah, I mean, maybe we could nerf them. Then again, I kind of also don't want to nerf, everything that, puts up a fight. So I think when you're mining on level 5, you should be facing real challenges. Compare this to how it's been over the last couple of worlds, where players have just basically instantly dug down to level 5 and then dug all their metal on level 5, etc., etc. I think it's a good thing if there's some, necessary combat, progression required to mine safely on the lower levels. Two other things, says Sinmofo. I am waiting for the wolves you teased at the beginning of the year, and 2, are we going to get armor repair? I would like to give you both of those. There's no real reason for us why we haven't implemented wolves. We can certainly do that. I think most of the resources are in place. It's more a question of, wolves are, an important animal to us, so I guess that's the reason why we kind of procrastinated in actually putting them in, because, we want it to be done right and whatnot. But maybe you could definitely argue that it's time to just bite the bullet and just do it and take it from there. I have no real illusions that they're going to be much other than meat bags for player plucking at the end of the day anyway. So H2O Spez, Lord Paywani. Don't nerf the slime. They are a good thing. That is what Sword of Storms is for. Yeah, that's a valid point. Jorbo, I think armor repair should only apply to lower tier armor, aka steel. Says Field Honor. Why do you feel that way, Field Honor? Feel free to. That's a great idea. Mr. Softener suggests that we build some stone walls. Let us do that while we wait for the kiln to get started or get done. Rather. It's also, I'm not sure how much unarmed combat I actually need to take on a fox. I seem to remember having a hard time with ants a couple of sessions back, so maybe I should chill with the fox until I bump up my unarmed combat a little bit. Someone gave me, and this is the worst manhandling of a nice gift ever, someone gave me an ancient tooth last time. So I took the liberty to slot this ancient tooth into my Q7.6 bunny slippers. It's a good use, right? Fingenia says, I feel like your discredits meatbag hunters a bit too much. I don't mean to do that. I meatbag hunt as well, and I think there's definitely a case to be made. I think that most animals should turn into meatbags at some point. Like, I don't really mind too much that, especially some, the easier forms of hunting, the lower tier quarries you can hunt. I don't mind that they turn into, effectively a form of foraging at some point. I think that's kind of reasonable. So we found a little squirrel here. We're gonna pick him up, bring his neck, all that good stuff. Butcher him. I want to save up some bones because I want to build a study desk, I think, and also definitely a good idea. We're going to try to build a wall. We should build a wall around our settlements so that it'll at least require a bit of vandalism to destroy my things. There's a Lord Pale. Oh, so that one in your name is intended to be an L. I see, Lord Pale. Okay, Lord Pale. Now I know. Airbase Owns says, as a miner I greatly appreciate slimes, although you really should look at their spawn numbers. They can spawn in big bunches in level 5 caves. Start of the world, even with 200-ish stats, they will smash an average miner if he gets an unlucky spawn. Might be that they are a bit too luck dependent, might be that they should be more easier to predict. Could be a valid point. Not gonna protest too much against that. A concerned Hearthling asks, hey Jorb, do you guys plan on giving combat another shot? Yeah, we're definitely going to give combat another shot, but we were, you know, a bit taken aback. So for those of you not in the loop, we pushed a new combat system that we've been working on for, you know, a few days every week since basically the start of the new year. And it wasn't received particularly well. It was, and you know, for good reasons. It was apparently, you know, wasn't all we had hoped it would be. So we're back to the drawing table with that and trying to think up new ideas. I think we learned a couple of things from the experiments. I don't think it was all wasted time. I at least came away from it with some new insights. So one of the things we tried to do was that in combat, you build up these openings against your targets or your opponents in combat that you're fighting. You build up openings against them, which you do that in order to actually, you know, later on deal damage to them through the openings. And the present system that we have uses 4 openings, and what we tried to do was to reduce that down to 1 opening, because we felt that we wanted to, you know, simplify the game, and because we felt that the complexity was kind of, you know, had some retarded implications. For example, when you have 4 openings in the combat system, you also need 4 defenses in the you know, 1 for each opening, which, you know, kind of means that you have to have a lot of defenses in your combat deck, you know, which is obviously this whole system right here, which has felt kind of off to me. But the problem we kind of ran into was that it was very hard for us to build up any sort of structure in the combat without those openings. So combat was really, what do you say, it was very flat. There was very little structure to it. There was very little sense that, you know, much of what happened during the combat, you know, made much of a difference in terms of the combat state. The combat state was always very simple. You know, simplistic even. It was always very, you know, just flat and uninteresting. And I don't think that's really what we had hoped it would be. So we're back to the drawing table, and with some new insights. I think because one of the things that Legacy Combat in the old Haven and Hearth did right in that respect, I think, was, you know, or at least you could argue, was that a lot of the variables that you could affect in the combat that, you know, kind of were the structure to the combat lay in the fighting relation, i.e. the combat intensity and the combat balance, and forgetting something? Not sure. No, I don't think so. They lay in the combat relation rather than on the player that you were fighting, and I think that might be you know, a good avenue for future development. Ardance TV says, in my opinion, you went wrong with the new system when you nerfed attacks. I agree with that. Rather than buffing defense, I agree with that. The issue that resulted was that PvE was very heavily nerfed. I agree. It was retarded, actually. You know, I went from being able to fight bears and stuff comfortably to not being able to fight much of anything at all. So I agree with that analysis entirely. Okay, so now we need to buy baking, which I believe is the skill that controls far more recipes than it reasonably should. But that is what that is. I'm just going to build an oven here with these bricks that we have now burnt in our kiln. Probably missed a ton of question there. Let's scroll up a little bit. About the eagles, can you slow them down just a bit? By the time I see one, it's already off the screen, asks Lord Pale. Not sure. I kind of like that they're, majestic, flying, soaring high above the winds of ordinary mortal hearthlings, and are a bit hard to catch. I kind of like that about them, so I'm not sure I want to do that. Yep. Let's see. James 12 asks, any thoughts and ideas about ranged combat and marksmanship? It's a little on the bad side at the moment. Probably, isn't it a lot on the bad side? It's archery and ranged combat has been a tough balance nut to crack. I think anyone who's been over all the iterations of the combat system that we have had, I think, can attest to the fact that there have been times when archery has certainly been anything but too bad, or too poor, or too useless. It's very easy to make archery far too good, and I think we've done exactly that in periods. So, and I think it's been hard to find a place where it's relevant, but not the be all and end all of PvP either. So, that being said, I mean, I say that it's a balance thing, but I also have to say that we haven't been too aggressive in trying to balance it, which is that's another kind of interesting dynamic, that when you change something, you kind of have to leave it in for some amount of time, because if you don't, you never really get a firm grip on how well it actually plays out. But that also makes it easy to make a change, stick to it, leave for like 3 months, forget about it completely, and now in the case of archery, basically leave for a year. I don't think we've touched it for since the world reset, basically. So I mean, you could argue that we could be more aggressive in changing the rules, but that also obviously implies that that there's a lot more flux in the combat system, which makes it harder to kind of condense out clear insights as to what should change and how. So a balance to be struck there, I'm sure. See, Field Honor asks, when will we see a new dungeon approximately? Is any in the works? Yes, I can confirm that we're working on a new dungeon. I hope that we could have it out before April is out, but might not want to promise too much either. We did kind of, in our initial kind of brainstorming for the new dungeon, we went through kind of all the things that we wanted to see, that we felt were lacking from the beaver dams, and all the things that we wanted to see. So we built up a pretty hefty list of features. So we'll see how many we actually get around to implementing for the new dungeon type. And also confirm that we'll be going underground for the next dungeon. So wonder what it could be. Let's see. Stisvol asks, wool cutter next patch. Yeah, sheep shears has been an oft-recurring request. It's on my list of small content suggestions, so certainly not something I would mind implementing. Could definitely use that. I'm a bit leery, perhaps, about including little tools for every minor thing that you can do, but I kind of also have to agree that shearing sheep is a bit too much of a chore right now, so I would not mind sheep shears, I don't think. See, Lord Pale asks again about the eagles. Can you slow them down just a bit? I think my answer to that is no. I don't want to slow them down. I kind of like their, again, soaring way above, high on the winds, far above mortal hearthlings. Dakan asks, how did you choose the names, aging locations for the new goat cheese? The Wikipedia for them didn't have any direct relation. I believe I just Googled goat cheeses and found some list or other, and then just kind of picked randomly from that. It's something that occurred to me, some common goat cheese that like everyone, a chèvre, yeah, a chèvre. I don't know how you say that in English, but a chèvre. That we forgot about that one. Should probably put that one in. Then again, there's nothing. You see the cup there for those of you who are playing the stream bingo. There's also no reason why we couldn't add like 30 cheeses per like cheese tree. I also want to make mixed cheeses, so that's another little project that I have on my list. Mandyland5 asks, how do you feel about fishing as it is right now? We talked a little bit about this last time, I believe, and I feel a couple of things. I feel that lure fishing is not good enough compared to bait fishing. Bait fishing essentially is far too good and should only catch more common basic fishes. Or fish, right? The plural of fish is still fish, right? So you should still only catch basic fish, whereas like the rare catches should be more reserved for lure fishing, I feel. Also feel that we could do more with net fishing and you know, more passive forms of acquiring fish. Also, one of the big complaints I have about it is that as the world progresses and as quality levels generally increase, fish and also a lot of foraged items are left behind by the quality advances of the more domestic industries, and I think that's a bit unfortunate for those industries and for those professions, like you know, fishing and such. So I think that those are my thoughts on it, and I know Lofter agrees. We've talked it over a couple of times. So. Field Honor says, I think eagles should be a bit stronger because they drop really, I assume he meant to say good here, drop really good curios compared to how easy they are to kill. Why am I fishing here? There are no fishes. There are no fish. Can't fish here. There's no use. You have to go find a place where the fish are actually jumping. Mr. Softner asks, or sorry, Manny X13 asks, what can the player base do for you in Lofter to make your life easier, aside from spending more money, of course? Honestly, spending more money is the best thing you can do to make our lives easier, but apart from that, play the game, have fun, post on the forums, post your suggestions that I like, watch the streams, share our stuff on Facebook maybe. I really, you know, I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but apparently we're doing Facebook now, so I suppose those are things you can do. Tell your friends about the game, start a village and make interesting brick art paving. That's a thing you could do for the game. So show the game, talk about the game, be in the game, play the game, all those things. Say thank you, say nice things to us. That means a lot too. So there's no shortage of ideas for the creative. Airbase owns says, fishing makes me want to end myself, to be honest. You shouldn't end yourself. Your life is precious, means a lot to a lot of people. You mean a lot to a lot of people. You should not think that way. Should definitely make it easier. Lost a cupboard of rock lobsters to 11% catch for keto. Yeah, there are a lot of, again, pedagogical problems there. You're presented with a chance to catch a fish when you're lure fishing, and so it says like 11% to catch, you know, a pike. But what it doesn't tell you is that each fish also has a chance relative to each particular lure to simply just eat that particular lure without asking any questions. So the 11% is only the chance for the fish to bite, not the functional chance for you to actually catch it, which is probably something that we should change. Should probably make a note of that. Let's make a note of that. Oops. Oops. Here we go. Showing you all kinds of stuff here. Where were we? I'll fix this. Yeah. Present fishing chances correctly. Let's call it that. Mr. Softner Raisin says, you have a nice beard. Thank you. Missed a couple here. Mr. Softner says, thoughts on more regional exclusivity for resources. Almost everything can be found in every biome currently, except for some critters. Well, I think the critters are one of the things that you know, I'm obviously trying to bring more regional exclusivity by adding those critters. So, and you know, forageables and whatnot. Like the thing we do now when we add new critters is almost always we add there's a whole horde of walrus down there, walruses. Should maybe go tussle with them. I try to add them you know, more or less exclusively for, you know, only some biomes. So we already tried to bring the regional exclusivity by adding more things, but I don't know. It's again a balance to be struck there as well, because a lot of times when we do make things too exclusive or too particular to some particular mechanic or whatever, I usually get the complaint back that ooh, poor noobish me can't get XYZ thing because it's only available in this limited context or whatever, and poor me, game sucks, etc. So there's a balance to be struck there in terms of, you know, availability and, you know, easy access to fun content relative to you know, regional diversity, which is also an important value for the game, I suppose. Amanda H&H asks, hey, bit late to the party. Hope I haven't missed anything, any exciting revelations. Sorry if it's already been asked, but are you still working on adding any new dungeons soon? That has indeed already been asked, Amanda, and yes, I've confirmed that we're working on a new dungeon. And I've also said that I hope to have it done before April is out, and I've also, though that's maybe optimistic, and I've also said that, what else did I tell you? Yeah, I told you that it's going to be an underground dungeon, so those are facts. Mr. Softner asks, how are you liking the player submitted screenshots? I don't know, how are you guys liking them? What I didn't like about them, of course, is there are several of them which have been taken with shadows turned off and bad cam turned on and blah blah blah. But you know, can't get everything. I enjoy them. Some of them are good, I thought. Can't say I've, you know, studied them in any excruciating detail, but some of them were good. How do you feel about the cattails, by the way? Did we make string just way too common by adding them, or do you guys like how that's playing out? We should definitely add more. Like one of the first screenshot we published for the new version of Haven had some, you know, reads in them, which we still haven't added. So that's certainly something we could/should add. Ardens TV asks, out of curiosity, what is the purpose behind the way the Credo system currently works? Is the fact that quest numbers required ramps up intended to encourage alts? No, Ardens, it's intended to, I suppose, encourage, I don't know, longevity, like to make it actually harder to have a character which has all, you know, progressively harder, that is, for each Credo we add, to have a character which has all of them. I think that's the challenge and task of it. Not sure how it scales, not sure it scales perfectly, or not saying it could perhaps not be better in various ways, but that's the thought behind it. Kind of an easy way for us to add, you know, more game hours to the game without having to put in a metric fuck ton of work for everything we add. So that's the reason why it is the way it is. Mopsy Pacey asks, it would be great to make books for roleplay stories and lore, so as bookshelves and library. Yeah, I agree. That would be fun. I guess I've always kind of felt that books should be like a big deal, and you know, so it's a common theme there with wolves, and that, you know, we feel they should be these important things, and that's the reason why we haven't done them at all, which is a bit counterintuitive perhaps. But you know, some things you kind of want to do right and have the right idea for would kind of be, I don't know, might be just a little bit boring if we just add books and they're just basically long parchments or whatever, where you can write more. El de los Indies asks, explosives that only work in the mines, with a timer to stick them in the wall. I wouldn't mind that. Some primitive form of explosives could be fun. So, I mean, we have sulfur and whatnot, so we could perhaps add black powder at some point. But I wouldn't necessarily mind that. Could be fun to like have a Zelda type bomb to just explore larger cavernous areas. Mr. Softener asks, real talk, oceans or insanely large bodies of waters? Thoughts? Well, in most games, and Haven is certainly no exception, and real life for that matter is no exception, so there are good reasons for this. Oceans are basically just blue deserts, and so in order for them to be interesting, I suppose you need to, and I think this is evident, like if you look at, for example, Wind Waker, Zelda Wind Waker, basically that was based around, you know, the whole theme of island hopping and sailing and whatever. You know, sailing the ocean is fun for the first couple of hours, but it gets old very quickly. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about oceans. I mean, it could be fun, like, don't get me wrong, I would want to do it, like, I would want to see whales in the game, for example. I would want to see, you know, ultimately, obviously, the goal would be to have the whale dungeon, where you get swallowed by the whale, and you have to fight your way through the whale dungeon, or die. That would be fun, but, yeah. So whales would be fun, and, you know, whale fishing, whaling would be fun, and, yeah. Field honor, black powder, meaning primitive flint blocks, etc. Don't want to go full retard with it. You know, I could go for explosives for the first instance. I don't want to, you know, go overboard with black powder things. Don't get me wrong, I do like the steampunk vibe, and that was, you know, kind of one of the ideas that we were tossing around for when we started building Haven, and some of the early screenshots actually contain a fair amount of like steampunkish elements. Some of the early mock-ups I did have guns and such, but so I wouldn't exclude it. But I also like the low-key fantasy kind of survival theme. So I'm not in any, you know, extreme rush to bring in black powder. But like, give the game 10 years, and I'm sure we'll do black powder. So. Sinmofo, what do you think about making alligators for the swamps? I think that would be a great addition and possible dungeon. Well, I agree with you. I've said this elsewhere on the forums, that I agree with you insofar that I think that the swamps are just way too tame at the moment, and I agree that there should definitely be a lot of dangerous enemies in the swamps. The only problem with alligators, I feel, is that they are a bit out of theme for the game, and that, you know, being, I don't know how far south or how far north rather you can actually find alligators, but the only thing I can come to think of is like the Nile, which is, you're kind of stretching it if you're calling the Nile a part of Magna Europa, and not sure. I don't think alligators, or, you know, crocodiles. I suppose you don't have alligators in the Nile, you have crocodiles, but whatever. Not sure how far south or north those go, actually. Maybe someone can Google that and come back with a good response to that question. We're leveling charisma, obviously a key stat at this point in the game. So, like the idea of making the swamps more dangerous, not too fond of alligators. Maybe like the giant pike from the Kalevala could be better in that case. Mangrel asks, pictures on cupboard to know the contents and save space. Yeah, that's an oft-recurring request. I wouldn't mind it per se if you could brand the cupboards in one way or another. Not entirely sure that, you know, because soon you'll be asking for pictures on everything, and I'm not sure what the implications of that really are. So, not sure how we should go about implementing that. Look, all the bricks are done. Which means we can soon finish our little oven here. We need some stones. We have that right here. So, Amanda H&H says, you can't make swamps too dangerous. Think of the noobs hunting for dragonflies. Yes, think of them. There they are, hunting for dragonflies. And suddenly, a dark shadow stalks them from the lower reaches of the swampy water. Oh, I think of them. I think of them every day. Replicant8 asks, did you think about container space being tied to quality? Instead of punishing players with making cupboards fragile? One of the things that I don't like about that kind of a mechanic is that there's a very distinct payout level. We can only pay out increased inventory space in terms of rows and columns. We can't pay out increased inventory space on a per tile or per unit single square basis. So one of the things I don't like about tying quality to inventory increasing mechanics, because obviously you could argue that way around like the traveler's sacks, for example, or whatever. One of the things I don't like about that is the fact that the payout becomes so very Boolean. You increase the quality of whatever it is you're building beyond some certain magical number, and then suddenly you get this distinct payout level. Don't like that too much. Mr. Softener, color coat cupboards is fair enough. Gives paint another use. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do variable materials on cupboards. The only problem with that could perhaps be that that I'm not sure how well the client would take to having a full room or whatever full of individually colored cupboards. So it might perhaps be best to hold off on that until we can instance render that better, which is the purpose of the client rendering rewrite, so that's the thing we're working on. Sinmofo asks, what is going on with the freeform building? Is it in the works? It would be nice to build individual buildings rather than just the same ones as everyone else. Yes, I agree. What I wrote in my kind of state of the hearth address for the year is that freeform building is, when we're done with the client rendering rewrite and when we've done all the obvious optimizations of the client rendering that would perhaps follow on that, our next step or next big project would be not freeform building, but the prerequisite for freeform building, i.e. object control objects, which is a system in which object in the game world can belong to another object and be rendered and fundamentally controlled by that other object, which means, for example, that a building can have an internal space where other objects can be in existence, whatever. So here's a friendly person who says something. My lord, we traveled far and wide to bring you this ancient artifact. What ancient artifact? Found washed up from the depths. Where is it? Where's the ancient? Oh, here it is. Lofter's bunghole. We have gotten the key to Lofter's bunghole. Wow, you guys. Thank you. You guys get kisses all around. We're gonna save that right here. Key to Lofter's bunghole. Got it right there. Sure, I'll be your kin. Let's see now. The Nox asks, are there things still unexplored by players? I'm not sure all the statues have been found, but I'm not sure, mind you. I think most things have been discovered by players. I think that's fair to say. Don't think we have too many aces up our sleeves that haven't been revealed. But we obviously work on adding new secrets all the time, so who knows. What was I doing? Yeah, we're first things first, we're gonna plant some wheat right back so that we have some for next time. And then we're gonna try to make that bread that we were talking about. Oops. So we'll extend the claim a little bit. And we will, I suppose we should probably build a plow here. Eustace Badgie asks, hey man, when can we get that sweet two-handed sword? I don't know, there's really no reason why we haven't added it, so maybe we can try to add it next patch. There's no real reason why we haven't added it, so I have no good answer. Let's see. Amanda Agent H asks, how many statues are in this world? I've only seen 2 posted, and putting one on level 5 caves was a bit obscure. I think we only put like 1 on the level 5 caves at least. So I think all the canonical statues exist, which means that I think there are at least like 5 or 6 maybe. So we still haven't added statues for worlds. What is that? 7 and 8. 7, 8, or 9 for that matter. So we may still do that. Field Honor asks, will there be a different approach for a world gem with more islands, possible seas instead of just lakes, which would justify sharks, whales, and other stuff? That's definitely when we get to working on the map generator next time, which, you know, no one really knows when that's going to happen, but you know, at least regardless of my, you know, full opinion on oceans, qua blue desert and stuff like that, I still think we want support for, you know, at least being able to generate oceans and and such. So it's definitely on my wish list for the next time we work on the map generator. Would be support for oceans, at least in principle. So I'm definitely not entirely opposed to it. El de los Indias says, why in the beginning after the combat update you didn't want it to go back? Thought you could fix it without going back to the previous system, or just some kind of frustration? By the way, thanks for go back and hear your community. Well, you're welcome. I guess what we wanted to do was to give it a fair try to see how it actually would shake out over, you know, testing it a couple of days and running it through some PvE and you know, just make sure that the feedback stayed consistent and that everyone kind of agreed and that there weren't, you know, like any second thoughts. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about, I mean, we could imagine we made changes to the game every 10 minutes. The game would be in a constant state of flux and it would be very hard to evaluate. Whereas, you know, I think, you know, some things like that we do have to get a bit of a better reading on. So leaving it in over the weekend at least, I think was a, you know, I think it was fine that we did that. We spent a fair amount of time on it, and you know, I don't want to remove a thing just because the immediate initial reaction is going to be poor, because I think there's a certain sense in which the immediate initial reaction is always going to be poor because you're going to have to, you know, relearn things and learn new things, and so there's always going to be good odds for a negative first reception, and I think we do well in, you know, awaiting a more balanced and nuanced, perhaps, take on the combat system or on any implementation. So leaving it in for a while, I think, is a fine thing to do. Um, Lord Pale asks, what about adding in archer towers that help protect villages from raiders? Not sure how exactly you imagine that would work, but definitely already with the existing stone towers, it'd be awesome if you could walk around on top of those. But the prerequisite for being able to make Hearthlings walk on top of stone towers is what I was referring to earlier, that is to say, object-controlled objects. That is to say, the ability for stone towers to actually control and manage Hearthlings. Alright, so we need 2 boards and 4 bows. This feels eminently doable. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's go find them bows. So yeah, would definitely love archer towers at that point. Would even not mind catapult towers and such things either. Let's see. Arden's TV asks, why exactly do animals tethered to a hitching post have the capability to roam 15 tiles in any direction? Any way to reduce that? I think that would be pretty easy to reduce. I think it's just a number, but why would you want to reduce that? I mean, obviously the idea would be that they're kind of tethered to the post, so that they can have some slack on the rope, so that they can roam around a little bit. What would you like the range to be? Mr. Softener, how long will the stream last? Well, I'm not entirely sure. We're coming up on 1 minute and 15, or 1 hour and 15 minutes. So the last couple of streams we've gone for 2 hours, and I'm not sure. 2 hours. I've intended for the past 2 streams. I've intended to quit at the 1.5 hour mark, but it's always kind of felt that. It's always kind of felt a bit cheap to do that, so I don't mind running the full 2 hours, I suppose. I'm not sure how you feel about streaming once a month. I've kind of felt that it's a bit, maybe just a little bit too often. Maybe like once every other month or so could be more reasonable. But I suppose I also don't mind doing it, so I don't really have any strong opinions on it. We'll try it out for this year. I mean, I've committed to doing 1 live stream a month for this year, so we'll try it out and see how it feels after a year, I guess. This is the 3rd live stream. It's already gone, like 1/4 of the year is already blown past, which feels kind of crazy. Time is just moving so fast, and it's, age has certainly not meant that it moves any slower. See, questions. S. Martins asks, what about butterfly net for flying critters and throwing rocks by hand for ground critters that will stun them for some seconds? Used to start fights, annoying hard things. Yeah, throwing rocks is something I've thought about for for some time. It's actually a good idea. I think I've thought about it before, a long time ago, but I haven't thought about it recently. I suppose one of the questions is how we differentiate it from slings, but I suppose slings could just do more damage. Maybe that's a small fix, actually. We'll make a note of it. Throw rocks? Could be fun. You could throw them kind of the same way that you throw snowballs. Two Shades asks, have you and Lofter ever considered combat mechanics with skill shot, directional skill, movement skills, dash, teleport, etc.? Or is the Haven code not suited for that in its current state? Actually, our initial value when going into the latest redesign of combat was to make combat directional. Was to introduce a heavy directional element into combat. For those of you who played Salem, you'll know that Salem has pretty much that, and it has directional combat. And we were going in a similar direction with this fighting system. And hello, Princess Mandy. And the only problem with that was that what we found was that we're sorry for leaving you, Mandy. We're going to go away and make a quern from a rock that we're going to locate somewhere. I'll be back. What we found was that directional attacks, having the base attacks being directional leaves a huge space for botting or automating the actual targeting to hit your enemies at optimal angles and whatnot, because that's really just math, which is something that you can obviously do client-side entirely, and that felt very suboptimal. It felt very strange to build an entire system, which basically feels very weird to build a whole new system which basically is just asking for auto aiming and bot, or a bot, or like an augmented combat system. So that was the reason why we felt the because initially we had intended to lean on directional combat for a large part of the skill required for the game, but we felt that we couldn't do that. I've read an article somewhere sometime, like, I think the title of it was that, like, why does combat in MMOs suck? And I think there are real reasons why combat in MMOs does tend to suck, because it's very hard to rely heavily on Twitch elements, which are usually, the large, more, fun part, and also, like, elements of physicality, like acceleration, deceleration, things like that are very, physical simulation is hard to do, on the other side of a ping or latency relative a server. So, and I think those are the things that you normally kind of enjoy most in fighting systems. So instead, for example, in our case, we've tried to go for what many a person has referred to as this Yu-Gi-Oh shit, quote unquote. So basically a more card game-like type combat system, and I come invite you on party. Well, thank you, Princess Mandy, for inviting me on party. I shall bow to you. Blah 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 blah. Where was I going with that? Yeah, combat is hard. Basically, getting it right is hard. Introducing an element of skill is hard, because usually in normal single-player combat systems, the skill element is physicality, timing, twitch reaction thing, and those are hard to replicate in an MMO, which leaves you basically, you have to create a skill element instead around things like internal states of the combat, internal state of the combat relation, or build more of a skill around manipulating the combat state itself, which obviously makes it so that we have to create a whole new game around that alone. I mean, the combat system is Princess Mandy asks, can you come now or on Saturday? I'm not sure I can promise I can come either now or on Saturday, actually. But leave an invitation. When you have the party, you can leave an invitation right here, Princess Mandy, and I will duly consider it. Where were we? Mr. Softener asks, how about a setting to disable building material variables so they all load the same? There are definitely a lot of rendering optimizations in that vein that we could do. I mean, for example, most custom clients have a feature to render crops as simple strands rather than as multiple strands, and things like that we could certainly implement in the main client as well. Our thinking has been that we should prioritize and first implement the non-degrading optimizations that we know are available to us. But basically all of that is predicated on the new rendering system, so we need the new rendering system before any of that can materialize. So let's try out the best new feature added this year, i.e. crafting from barrels. Let's see. What other questions were there? Lord Pale asks, any thought into making small game traps that you can set out? The trap puns. Yeah, sure. I would. The question is, how would they work? Because in Haven, it's very much the case that when you're not there, nothing happens in the game really. So any like decay and things are basically effects added when a map is loaded again. So how would a small game trap work? Like, say you place a trap, does it work so that a rabbit walking up to the trap has a certain chance to get caught in it? Because if we do that, and one need perhaps not exclude the other for that matter, but if we do that, then you'd basically have to sit around watching the trap until a rabbit accidentally is into it, and I don't think that's what you're actually after. And the other obvious option would be to make it so that when the trap has been unloaded for a certain amount of time, you simply roll a dice or a die to see if it caught anything, and if successful, you then place a rabbit in the trap. We could do that, and whatever, but I don't know. For some reason, it feels kind of a bit like cheesy. It feels like you magically just introduced a rabbit there. But I don't know. Maybe that's just a bullshit counter argument that with no real bearing. Okay, so you're supposed to be able to walk by holding an item and control clicking, but for some reason, and I'm not sure why, that works very selectively. At least on my computer. I'm not sure what the problem with that actually is, but we found a long-burning firebrand, so we got lucky. Let's see, what else? Mr. Softener, will you visit the community fair towards the end of the stream like you promised last time? Yes, I will, if someone comes and shows me the way to the... Or did I make... It's up here, right? I think it was up here. Believe that the crossroad that we used to travel to the community fair is up there somewhere. I believe we went to the northeast last time, right? Maybe up here somewhere. Go look at that. Let's see if we can find it. But we'll wait for the bread to finish first, at least. El de los Indias asks, birdcage to farm birds as rabbits and chickens. Yeah, we'd love that. We'd love a little, steel birdie cage, or even perhaps a golden birdie cage. But for that to be able to work in any, good capacity, I think we'd need object-controlled objects first, so that we could actually place, any arbitrary bird in the bird cage. Yep. Mr. Softener says, I think having rabbits will be drawn towards baited traps might work. Yeah, it could. But then again, I mean, you can just run up to rabbits and just pick them up as well, so why would you use a trap? It's kind of like, is there really a niche for it? Franciano says, come fast to community fair, Southgate. Missick1891 asks, would it be possible to put a hard cap on how many times in a row you can fail to start a fire with a firebrand? Anything would certainly be possible, but we have to ask ourselves, where would be the fun in that? Isn't half the point the tears that come from the when you fail? Let's see, Southgate is PvP spot for community fair, Jorb, and a meme. I see. I was unaware of this meme. Yet I read the forums daily. How can I be unaware of this meme? Has the meme not made its way to the forums? Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Let's see, do we have any other questions here that I missed? Probably, right? S. Martin, just saying about combat, what about some kind of simplistic mind game like Mastermind or such? I don't know what Mastermind is, but I've been thinking in similar terms, or at least in terms of game theory. One of the things that was kind of interesting, I suppose, about Old Haven's combat system was, for example, you had these combat global variables that both players could affect, and I think you had a lot of game theoretical situations in that were kind of interesting. Like, for example, There were certain moves, say, that consumed fighting intensity for some effect or other beneficial to the player. And I suppose they're like, you can imagine an easy, or a simple game theoretical example. Like, for example, say you and I both take turns putting dollars in a hat, and when it's your turn, you can either choose to put another dollar in the hat or take all the dollars in the hat. That's a simple game theoretical situation, which is kind of interesting, because when do you actually take the dollars in the hat? Like, we go back and forth putting dollars in the hat, but when do you actually go and grab the hat? It's when is the temptation big enough? And I think game theoretical situations like that could perhaps play a relevant and interesting role in a new combat system. So Zenti69 says every battle should just initiate an Uno match. That's certainly an idea. See, did we have any salad left for making these forest snails into yummy edibles? I think we've made some progress here. We have certainly built up the farm a little bit, and we've gotten to the bread that we had hoped for. So that's a good thing. Let's see. So many recipes. How do you guys feel about adding more food recipes and such? Is it just useless? Just more stuff that no one ever bothers actually cooking, or is the variance, meaningful and relevant and interesting? Do let me know. There we go. Do we have any more fishing that we needed to do? I don't think so. We can make straw doll. I don't think we have a straw doll on right now. Let's make that. Mopsy Pacey says Grandia 2 have a great battle system. Love it. Did you play it, by the way? No. Is it an MMO? Because if it's an MMO, I could certainly be tempted to at least checking it out. Let's see there. H2 says, what about credo farming? Their text bug? 2-time getting farming? No, that was intentional. Like, you get rewards for farming twice during the credo. I don't think farming is unique or alone in that. Let's see what else. What about just a thought? Sinmofos asks, just a thought about skills attributes. What if instead of studying tons of different items, you added in a more you do it better, you make it type of skill improvement? The first version of Haven had that, but we basically just gave we gave learning. One of the problems perhaps was that we gave generic learning points for accomplishing tasks, so you could just craft endless amounts of basically boards or whatever, and then you got learning points which you could use to increase your combat stats. But I don't know. Generally, I kind of like the curiosity system. I like that the learning points are generic, so that you have a decision point where you decide on what to spend them on. And I'm also not too fond of the incentive where, like, okay, so say that we make it so that the more you farm, the better you get at farming. Okay, this certainly introduces a very kind of unsound incentive to just farm arbitrarily. Like, you just put your character on bot farming all day, every day, in order to max out your skill gains in farming, and that feels a bit backwards, I have to say. So yeah, pretty much that. James 12 says, when are you going to implement better animations for combat? That was one of the things we looked at for the new combat system, and had it played out better, we had actually intended to introduce clubs as well. It's something I've worked on, so there are graphics for clubs. And for clubs, we have better attack animations. So it's definitely on our radar and something that we'd like to do. What else? Mr. Softener says, every week can be summed up as one new critter, a few new foods, and a hat. Yeah, well, I mean, if you have better ideas for what we should be working on that are like small and will, you know, presumably lead to a patch every week, feel free to tell me. Like, obviously, what we're pushing in the weekly patches are usually just small things that we add in over the course of a couple of days while we, you know, spend the majority of the week working on bigger projects. So that's, you know, mostly something to, I don't know, keep you entertained and interested in the game while we develop, you know, features that will inevitably take longer time than just a few weeks to throw together. I also don't think it's meaningless. Like, a lot of the things that we do are bug fixes, and you know, look at a lot of critique and ideas and suggestions and such. And I think, you know, a lot of the things that have come out of that have felt very meaningful. I think we've added a fair amount of polish to the game, which may not be, you know, immediately noticeable, but I think it definitely makes a difference at some point, or to some extent. Let's go up and check this little farm right here, see if it's still active, and see if we can loot anything interesting from it. And depending on the results of that little excursion, we can then look at maybe heading over to the community fair and get ourselves ganked, perhaps. But we'll see how that actually plays out. So, Field Honor says, did you work on world bosses yet? And would it be possible to make curiosity out of fish? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by like world bosses, like dragons and such. It's not something I've really spent any time on in any formal capacity. No, can't say I have. What was the other thing? Would it be possible to make a curiosity out of fish? It's a curious idea. Oh, look, here's Princess Mandy. Hello, Princess Mandy. And hello, Princess Mandy's friend. Hello. What are you guys up to? Chilling like villains? Let's see if we can find the... So, Racing asks, will there be anything done about the stat gap between old and new players? I believe there was a cap at one stage. Yeah, there was a level cap, used to be that, so that's certainly an idea that I would... That one said market, right? Follow market. I want to follow market. Let's see. Follow market northeast. Yeah, I wouldn't mind necessarily implementing a stat cap. We'll see where we take that. The immediate priority will be to wow, there's a horse here, you guys. I found 2 horses even. Wow, it's amazing. Do these belong to anyone? It's a great horse. This horse is significantly better than my horse. Yeah. Did I steal someone's horse? There's a lot of people here. Travel along community fair. Let's... Someone went and used... Oh, thief. Did I steal someone's horse? Sorry about that. That's how you get ahead in the game, guys. So I don't know, I was rambling. The first priority in terms of the stat cap will be to rebalance food and all that nonsense. So someone used rawhide indeed. Lots of stuff there. Just perhaps Sinmofo asks, perhaps a new exterior wall like stone and mortar wall to be different than the brick wall everyone uses. Just perhaps a different look. That would not be a bad idea. I'm running away from you, Ramsey the Third. So where the party at, y'all? Where the party at? Where should I go in the community fair to find the party? It's probably by like down here somewhere. The minstrel boy to the war has gone. Ladybug. Found a ladybug. It's great. So yeah, this is the community fair. It's really, really beautiful. I wonder, like, in terms of, I don't know how you would quantify that, but in terms of like man hours and whatever, like how long did this actually take to build? Oh, someone's horse died here. A lot of horses died here, actually. This is the graveyard of dead horses. Let's see how this thing does on gallop speed. Pretty good horse here. A lot better than mine. How good horses do you have now these days? Like, what are your qualities? Let me know in the chat. So here's the charter stone. I'll be chilling by the charter stone, you guys, if y'all want to come join me here. Manny 13 says, "The world was young, the mountains green, no stain yet on the moon was seen." No words were laid on stream or stone when you were below and woke and walked alone. Yep, you know it. Zenti69 says, "Drop us some hints about bigger or more interesting things coming down the pipe soon besides the shit everybody always asks about." I don't know what to tell you. Like, I think I've already spilled the beans on the things that we're working on and you know, our priorities. Client rendering rewrite. After that, our next immediate priority will be object-controlled objects, leading into a more free-form building system. And in between that, I hope to work mainly, you know, one of the big things that I like to do are, you know, obviously more dungeons. And also another thing that I would like to do is a more like evolved like questing system in general. I would like, for example, for it to be possible to have like, you know, small conversations with quest givers. So I'd like to have a small conversational system, and I would also like to. I'm just gonna. I don't know who owns this horse. Who wants this horse? I'm not sure who I stole this from, but hey, Jorb, you rock. Thank you. You rock too. Yeah, conversation system for NPCs would be fun, and more like kind of relations between various NPCs and things like that. Something I'd love to work on. There's a man with a giant turnip over here. That's fun. Can we have a hatless hat? It's not a bad idea. A hat to hide what you're wearing as a headline. Yeah, I've had that idea too. My liege, we are honored to see you here. I am honored to be here, sir. Let's do the step dance. Can we have a south gate? I'm not even sure what that would mean. I'm not sure I get the meme. I should have to Google that. Like, know your meme later. Sure, I'll be your kin. There's a pretty good turnout here. Add cool capes, not a bad idea. We'll keep that in mind, add cool capes. More cosmetics allow us to throw... One idea that I actually loved was Jordan Cozy's idea about cosmetic coracles. So in the game there are coracles, which is like a small boat that you can carry on your back. And Jordan Coles had an idea about making cosmetic coracles, like, you know, little, you know, floating balloon animals and stuff like that. And I thought that was a great idea. Jorbo, yes, Dr. Rogue. Oh, you guys look really awesome in your various attires. It's me, Mopsy Pacey. Hello, Mopsy Pacey. It's good to see you, man. Da, 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 da. We'll do the same fun thing we did last time then. A bunch of you got the experience there. So have fun with these. Hermagerd. Okay, I dare not spawn more of them for fear of what you'll A for fear of what you'll do with them, and B for fear of causing too much lag for everyone here. I shall never doubt again. It's awesome. All right, more questions. What about equipable banners that you can use sketch pages on that go in the back slot and can be used to display village banners in combat? That go in the back slot, so you're imagining something like one of those like Japanese samurai flag things. That could be fun. Would perhaps not mind that. Could consider that. I'll make a note of that. Small content. Small content. Japanese samurai flag concept thing. No, I'm not entirely sure what those are actually called. H2O Spaz, did I ignore you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. What to do if I don't get plus 10 stats from Forager Credo? Main stats won't get higher from Forager Credo complete, and bonus stats are only from... What do you mean H2O Spaz? Like if we had a stat cap? Not entirely sure. Many of what you meant there, H2O Spaz. Please clarify the question, and I'll definitely try to answer. Manny 13 says, I have to thank you for so many replies to my bug reports, ideas, and whatnot. Thank you greatly. You're welcome. Thank you for posting them. I try to, my regime for the past couple of days has been to, like, every, Zenith69 says, rakia, when though? Rakia is like an alcoholic drink, right? You will have your alcoholic beverages whenever alcoholic beverages work better, or whenever beverages in general work better. Then I wouldn't mind adding more. Like we should have mead, for example. Should have had that a long time. H2O Spez says, I just ended Forager and I didn't get plus 10 perception and plus 10 exploration. I don't know. If you've completed Forager and did not get the intended reward, then that sounds like a bug, and you are free to submit a bug report to me on the forums indicating which characters are supposedly actually affected by this. And I may look at it. It may not be easy to debug. I've never seen that bug before, so it would certainly be a new bug. But if that is indeed what you have experienced, then you are free to report the bug to me on the forums. Ozone Parrot. Chance of vultures spawn near corpses. There are European vultures, right? There are Asiatic vultures, right? Vultures are like not a strictly New World type creature, I don't think. Not sure the extent, and I'm not sure where all the various vultures of the world exist. I'm not going to say neither no or yes to that. Onip of the Potted Plant asks Onip for mod when. have to tell you the truth on it. I'm kind of you're a bit too involved in the factional warfare for that to be really a super appealing option. I'm sure you do a great job of it, but I kind of want people who are more like not too deep in the sticks, Uh, oh, about the potted plant says, I'm a retired LARPer now. I'm sure you are. Retired. Vultures can be replaced by crows because they ate bodies. Yeah, crows could be fun. No, we have magpies, right? Not crows. We could definitely crows. Ravens we could also do. And I still have the... Amanda Agent H asks, how about me for mod? Well, if you'd like to be mod, Amanda, I think you're closer. I'd consider you before, if you want to be mod. I'm not sure how many mods we actually need. I think the forums have generally been in a good place, though I do want to give Granger some credit for that, because I think he did do a fairly good job at cleaning some of the worst excesses of the forums up. Vi älskar dig, säger Veterinari. Jag älskar er också, Veterinari. Ni är så himla fina och goa. Blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure Granger was with these. I don't know about that. I think he did a good job of cleaning up the forums, but I think the forums have been in a good place, so there hasn't been too much, except for those Adidas bots. I don't know if you've seen those. Do you say Adidas or Adidas? I don't know. Adidas, right? The Adidas bots. There are bots that go on the forums and spam, like, ads basically for buying Adidas shoes off of various web pages. I'm not sure what they feel that the purpose of that would be, or if, but it's a common feature. Like every time I remove, every time one of the forum spam bots goes on the forum to post trash, it's basically always about Adidas sneakers. Just a kind of curious thing. This is good. There's a good party going on here. Why did I stop doing the step dance? Let's do the rowdy dance instead. Yeah. Let's see what else. Questions. We're coming up on 2 hours here, so pretty soon I'm gonna jump back and check on the bread in the oven, and then we're gonna call it a night. I think this was fun. Time usually flies past actually when I'm doing these. I always like I was alluding to earlier. I always think like 2 hours is too much, but then when you actually get to the 2 hour mark, you kind of you breeze up to it. It goes really fast. Perhaps. Hey Jorb, it's going to be a boreworm dungeon, isn't it? No, I can disconfirm that it's not going to be a boreworm dungeon. It's great. Let's see some of the. He has a Phrygian cap over here on that man. He has a propeller cap right here. Sombrero, obviously, and here we have the full metal helmet. It's a relatively recent addition. Ashtray hat is a rare one. Not too many people bought the ashtray hat. It's actually kind of fun with the because the store hats that Santa hat is awesome. The store hats that we've added recently have sold a lot more than the store hats that we added like when we first released the new version of Haven. Which is the reason why we for a long time didn't make any new store hats, was that we didn't feel that we made any money from it. It didn't feel meaningful at all. So the old store hats are actually some of them are really rare, like the launch helmet. Not too many people have that one, and I know like the Four Winds hat is pretty rare, and some of the older hats that we made I think would sell a lot better if we made them now. See if we had more questions here. More metal alloys and steel variations in tempering one. Yeah, the metal industry is honestly just a mess in terms of how underdeveloped it is. We could do so much more with that, I think. I think that bottoms out ultimately in the weapons industry, and I think that the weapons industry should itself be made a lot deeper. I think you should have, basically it should be more component based, where you're putting together swords and weapons and whatnot from various base components that all kind of affect the end results in various ways. I think the weapon system is very shallow right now, so definitely like to change that. Crocodile Dundee hat is not a bad idea. Let's see, blah blah blah. Cosmetic skins for horses, I could consider that. We're actually definitely considering making animal colors or coloration schemes a heritable trait of animals, so that you could breed various spotted cows and things like that. Loftar made a kind of a early jab at that and actually produced some interesting results, so that may happen at some point. Alright, we got a good crew together at the community fair. We'll try to make this a recurring theme that will, towards the end of the stream, we'll pop over to the community fair to see what kind of party we can get going there. It was great of all of you to turn up for the community fair meetup, and even better for all of you to turn up for the stream at all, especially on such a short notice. I'll try to give better notice next time, and I will also try to not bungle the intro music, because now you missed my awesome intro music of awesome Orthodox monks singing a very beautiful American Christmas song. So that was a shame, but I sent you the link, so you can go watch it yourselves. In case you missed it, I think we still have it. I think I can still repost it. Oops. From my other little computer here. So I think that should be the link for that, in case you want to watch it. It's really good, I think. So, can someone play the bagpipes? Someone should definitely play the bagpipes. Alright guys, I'm heading home to check on the bread. Thank you all for being on the community fair, and we're going to wrap the stream up in just a few minutes, so if you have any additional questions, feel free to post them before we sign off for Oblivion. And here's the bread that I promised that we would be making. Its quality is 17.2 bread made from barley flour. Constitution +1 FEP gives 8.19, which is certainly better than a lot of the food that we've been eating thus far. So I'm gonna keep these in my inventory so as to avoid them being stolen by mean end users with no respect for other people's property. Put on another cattail head for studies, and yeah. Lord Pale says later, and thank you for this most wonderful game. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you for playing it, man. Like it's nothing without the players. So it's really, I don't see us going anywhere. Like regardless of what happens in terms of like the player numbers and the economy in the game and blah blah blah. I think we're gonna keep developing this game for years to come, unless something crazy happens. So. It's really awesome to get the feedback and the interaction with the players and blah blah blah. It's really fun, even though it can be like, I complain about it sometimes, but it's fundamentally, I don't think I'd do it if I didn't enjoy it at all. So this has been a lot of fun. I will try to give a little bit, plan the next stream a little bit better, perhaps. I think I'm not sure if there's any, if you have any meta commentary on the stream, I'd be happy to take it. I think one of the things that we could do is, I should probably do something about the chat. I noticed that Jordan Coles, when he was streaming, he had a transparent chat, and I think that was a good addition, so I'm going to look at that at some point. Flyrell says thank you, you're welcome. Field Honor says, the game changed so much since World 7 and World 9 that I played. Keep updating with interesting stuff each week, so it's nice. Essentially why I bought a 1-year sub. Much, I really appreciate that you support the game, sir, with your hard-earned money. That means a lot to us. And yeah, thank you for the kind words as well. Morgan Coxey says, really enjoy these. Thanks so much. You're so very welcome, Morgan. Tiwi Goody says, stockpile for logs when? Obviously, logs break the general stockpile mechanic in that logs are not items, but rather objects. So it's not just a matter of adding a stockpile for them. That being said, I do agree that logs could use significantly better storage. So I definitely think there's some case to be made for log stockpiles of some kind. So I'm not at all opposed to adding those. But yeah, as I said, if you have any meta commentary on things that I can do better, just with the stream from the technical aspects of it, that would be great. I don't really watch too many streams myself, so I'm not really too in on what all the cool kids are doing with their streams. But if you have ideas as to what I should do, feel free to let me know. Is there anything else I can let me build a dream catcher, because I don't think I have a dream catcher. Because for some reason all the dream catchers that I built during the last session were mysteriously lacking from the claim when I logged in. So I can only assume that someone has been mean to me. Why someone would be mean to me, I cannot fathom, but apparently that's the stark, harsh, cold reality of it. Let's see. I want to pump the potted plant says, I was thinking maybe a blur filter over your face. Oh, harsh, man. Harsh, bro. Why you gotta be like that? What else? Field Honor says, you're doing dev streams, so basically you're always in for tons of questions and spoiling what's in for the next month. Yeah. No. Mandyland 5 put the Haven and Hearth logo over the entire screen, just zip, 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 from corner to corner, corner to shining corner. I think that could be a great idea, just have the logo there. What else do we need to see? Mr. Softener says, can we have a literal ass hat? That's actually a great idea. Let's see, hats. Oops. Hats. New hats. Future store hats. Ass hat. Adding it. We'll be having an ass hat. I want to put the potted plant says salt. Oh. How many are those? I need one more. Collie says, as for logs, I would make something like a garden shed that can hold only logs, like 30 or 40. Maybe that's might be what we want to do. Felix Strong joins us. Hello, Felix Strong. Do I have any more strings here? I have one more string. No. Actually, all the string I need. There we go. Zenith69 says, you should wear an IRL version of existing store hats every stream. Yeah, that would be awesome if I had the ability to actually procure real-life versions of all the nonsensical store hats that I ask. that I make. Give me a minute here so that I can get another dream and make another. I want to make a Sears bones because I think I can add a Sears bone to my list of things to study. Spam, spam, spam. S. Martin says, wait for object control objects and logs on top of each other. I think that might actually be closer to, something like that might be closer to what I would actually like to do. I'd like just equip the logs together to form like an actual triangle. I don't think, or like an actual pyramid. Don't think that would be a bad idea. Really? Why is this taking so long? Why can't I get a dream from this one? See, did we miss anything? Lord Pale says, fighters headed your way. Bring him, man. Bring him, bring him, bring him. Come on. I just made a dream. I just cheated myself to a dream. Boom. Can we get a pate? Yes, the pate is a great idea. Alright, so we throw on a quality 9 Sears bone for win and glory. And with that, I think I'm going to call it a night and say thank you for watching the stream and enjoying this interesting little play session with me. My goal for the next stream will be to simply keep jabbing away at this. Eventually, I hope we can get a wall up, and someone suggested a stone wall, and that could be cute. So there are a lot of things, and also building a house should be on our list, to-do list for next time. Thank you so much for this, and yeah, I'll catch you in at least a month, and before that on the forums, I'm sure. Hope to have like 4 good patches for the next, before the next stream is out. So maybe we could do that into a recurring event. Like maybe I should go over the patches a little bit, like the patches since last stream. That might be a good idea for next stream. Like just go through the patches and kind of have a look at them. As Martine says, invite Loftar sometime. Yes, we're definitely going to have Loftar on. I think might actually try to have him on next time. I don't want to force him to do these things, too often. I think this is one of the things that I can do myself for the game. So, and Loftar's time is definitely more constrained than mine. So, yeah, but definitely, I would definitely like to bring him on, and I know you guys love to see him as well. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll have a good rest of your evening, and have a good work week, or school week, or whatever it is you have for next week, and bloody 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 bloody, and I'll see you in a month or so, or on the forum before that. Take care, guys. Live well. All the best from me to you. Ciao.